An ancient tradition ascribed the establishment of moon worship to Adam, the first man. The medieval Arab scholar Abu Bakr wrote, "They, the Sabians, say that Adam was born from male and female, just like the rest of mankind, but they honored him greatly and said that he had come from the moon, that he was the prophet and apostle of the moon, and that he had exhorted the nations that they should serve the moon." They also related about Adam that when he had left the moon and proceeded from the area of India towards Babylonia, that he brought many wonders with him. The Adamites, the antediluvian men, were most probably not the first human beings on the planet, even admitting that by expulsion from the Garden of Eden is allegorized a catastrophe which quite destroyed mankind prior to the deluge. It is impossible to declare that it was the first catastrophe. It depends on the memory of the peoples which catastrophe they consider as the act of creation. Human beings, rising from some catastrophe, bereft of memory of what had happened, regarded themselves as created from the dust of the earth. All knowledge about the ancestors, who they were, and in what interstellar space they lived, was wiped away from the memory of the few survivors. The Talmudic rabbinical tradition believes that before Adam was created, the world was more than once inhabited and more than once destroyed. It was at the end of the first age, symbolized by the expulsion of man from the blessed Garden of Eden, that the moon lost its brightness. It was not just a single human pair. The tradition ascribes to Adam the invention of 70 languages. Hebrew mythology assigns to the period preceding Adam's expulsion different geophysical and biological conditions. The sun shone prominently on the earth, and the Garden of Eden, placed in the east, was, it must be conceived, under perpetual rays of the dawn. The earth was not watered by rain, but mist, ascending from the ground, condensed as dew upon the leaves. The plants looked only to the earth for nourishment. Man was of exceedingly great stature. The dimensions of man's body were gigantic. His appearance was unlike that of later man. His body was overlaid with a horny skin. But a day came, and the celestial illumination ceased. The sun had grown dark the instant Adam became guilty of disobedience. The flames of the ever-turning sword terrified Adam. Genesis 3:24. In another legend it is told that the celestial light shone a little in the darkness, and then a celestial light ceased, to the consternation of Adam. The illumination of the first period never returned. The sky that man was used to see never appeared before him again. The firmament is not the same as the heavens of the first day. The day of Genesis, as I have already noted, is said to be equal to 1,000 years. It was after the fall of man, according to Hebrew tradition, that the sun set for the first time. The first time Adam witnessed the sinking of the sun, he was seized with anxious fears. All the night he spent in tears. When day began to dawn, he understood that what he had deplored was but the course of nature. It was also then the seasons began. That's pretty good lyrics. This is told in the following story. Adam noticed that the days were growing shorter and feared lest the world be darkened. But after the winter solstice, he saw that the days grew longer again. The earth also underwent changes. Independent before, she was hereafter to wait to be watered by the rain from above. The variety of species diminished. Man, according to Hebrew legends, decreased in size. There was a vast difference between his later and his former state, between his supernatural size then and his shrunken size now. He also lost his horny skin. The whole of nature altered its ways. References:
Athanasius Kircher, Taurus Babelsci Varkonatologia Amsterdam, 1679, p. 134. The very angels and the celestial beings were grieved by the transgression of Adam. The moon alone laughed, wherefore God obscured her light. Ginsberg Legends I. 80. Ginsberg Legends I.
79 and Ginsberg Legends 76. Worship of the moon. Because of its size, and also because of the events which accompanied the first appearance of the moon, many ancient peoples regarded the moon as the chief of two luminaries. The sun was of smaller importance than the moon in the eyes of the Babylonian astrologers. The Assyrians and the Chaldeans referred to the time of the moon god as the oldest period in the memory of the people, before other planetary gods came to dominate the world ages. The moon was a supreme deity. Such references are found in the inscriptions of Sargon II, circa 720 BC, and
Nabonidus,
circa 550 BC. The Babylonian Sin, the moon, was a very ancient deity. Mount Sinai owes its name to Sin. The moon, appearing as a body larger than the sun, was endowed by the imagination of the peoples with a masculine role, while the sun was assigned a feminine role. Many languages reserved a masculine name for the moon. It was probably when the moon was removed to a greater distance from the earth and became smaller to observers on the earth that another name, usually feminine, came to designate the moon in most languages. Bezold in Baal was considered to be the father of the sun god Shamash, Utu, and was commonly addressed as Father Sin, Sumerian and Babylonian. Psalms 1909. F. Cumont noted the prominence of Sin in the earliest historical period in Babylonia, and found it remarkable that at first the primacy was assigned to the moon. Astrology and Religion Among the Greeks and Romans, page 124. The late Assyrio-Babylonian cult of the moon. According to the Dabistan, a Persian work of early Islamic times, the Kaaba of Mecca was originally dedicated to the worship of the moon. On moon worship, among the ancient Arabs, also
Touch Sinaitische Schriften Zeitschrift des Deutsches Morgenländisches Gesellschaft 3, 1849, p. 202, Anoshanda Vorweilemische Religion der Araber Ibid 7, 1853.
The Greeks regarded the moon as of greater importance than the sun. The sun's subordination to the moon is a remarkable feature of early Greek myth. Helios was not even an Olympian, but a mere Titan's son, Hyperions. This is a long one. C.R. Markham, London, 1873, describes sacrifices to the moon by the natives of Peru in the 16th century. So the Indians of Vancouver Island assigned greater importance to the moon than the sun. E.B. Taylor, Primitive Culture, 1929, as did several tribes in Brazil. See Sargon's display inscription, since distant days of the age of Nanaru. A cuneiform text describes the first appearance of the moon, when the gods fixed the crescent of the moon to cause the new moon to shine forth, to create the month, the new moon, which was created in heaven, with the majesty in the midst of heaven arose. R.W. Rogers, Cuneiform Parallels of the Old Testament, 1912. J. Louis, The Late Assyrio-Babylonian Cult of the Moon and Its Culmination in the Time of Nabonidus, quotes Philochorus as having Macrobius Saturnalia 8, quotes Philochorus as having said that men offer sacrifices to the moon, dressed as women, and women dressed as men, because the moon is thought to be both male and female. You know, I noticed on the video of mine, Worship of Saturn, if I'm not mistaken, that is claiming that Osiris was swathed to look like Saturn, and therefore all the dead were to be swathed like that. And that's where we get the mummy. So they were emulating Saturn's look. And it does look like it's been wrapped in bandages. It's very interesting. And that pretty much cinches it. They had to have seen it. How else would they know? In 2016, I took up painting. It's something that I always wanted to do. I just never did. I got a couple of interesting pictures here. Now, I'm a lousy artist, so I'm not trying to show it off. I'm just showing a strange coincidence. I painted this picture right here, not knowing at all that water was there, for one, and that Thoth was synonymous with the moon. I did not know that at the time. And that people apparently, or supposedly, allegedly, came from the moon. See, I have an embryo there inside the moon. That's what I was trying to make it look like anyway. I was just a beginner. I'm still a beginner, but it's something I really enjoy. And the strangest one of all, now don't look at my lousy galaxy. I was experimenting with sponges. I tried to make a galaxy with sponges. And it's not the galaxy that's interesting. I snapped a picture of it to play with the contrast. And look at this. You see that face right there? That's creepy. I wanted to read a few comments from the last video, The Pelestians, Time Before the Moon. Our interests cover a wide spectrum. We like cosmology, mysteries, histories, and all things. So let us begin. Mud Fossil University. Always good to see you. You know Velikovsky is my top hero. Mine too. Have you seen my latest vids on Velikovsky and the gods? No, I haven't. With what I do, it's hard to actually watch videos. I'm either researching or recording or reading or building the video, and I don't have much time other than that. But I'll soon change that. Everybody, make it on over to Mud Fossil University and check out his Velikovsky videos, by all means. Very good channels. Our body parts, very clear. They are tendon.
Emphasis balls.
Emphasis balls. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Deficit dish. Just found your channel. I've never heard of this story before. It's so interesting. And the Saturn theory. Thank you. You know, I feel the same way. The first time I heard it, it put the hooks in me, and it just felt right. And there's so much evidence, it's just ridiculous. It can really grab you by the boo-boo. How to survive electronic harassment. This is beautiful, helpful, endlessly fascinating information. As my friend Shockwave would say, Roger that. Your mind is fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your words with us. You should narrate for a living. Your voice is like an intelligent version of Garrison Keller, LOL. Well, I don't know the gent, but I will take that as a compliment. Thank you very much. I would love to narrate for a living, but how does one get started in that exactly? I have good days and bad. Good luck and bad. It's been an on-the-job learning curve. I always try to do my best. Thank you. Zeno Bardock. Moon would have shared Earth's axial tilt if it had funnies from Earth. Very good. I agree. Moon might have been originally orbiting Jupiter along with Mercury, considering their axial tilts. Later, both were dislodged and captured by the Sun. I agree with you 100%, except for one little thing. Jupiter and Mercury have the same axial tilt as the Sun, and Jupiter shares a common barycenter. Their oxygen matches with the Sun, which is indicative of it one time being a hot Jupiter, born from the Sun, or in the same Herbig-Haro object. Later, Comet Earth captured the Moon. Around 32,000 BC, the oldest lunar calendar dates to possibly. Yes, it was, can't remember the guy's name, in 64, I believe. They found lunar cycles on bone. I made a video about it, actually, and it carbon dated back to 32,000 BC, I believe, which would be in line with the Saturn theory. Symbols and systems. I keep wondering about the past, high-tech ancient people, me too, and then all the gold just lying around, and wonder why this gold had so little value to the high-tech ancients. Is it easily found elsewhere in the solar system? Well, I can't really answer that question, although I have heard that the Earth is the only planet, rocky core planet with heavy metals that we know of. That isn't to say it's not buried on Mars. We just haven't detected it yet. And as far as gold for the super ancients, I heard that they ate it. Monotonic gold. Nah, it had some kind of like a super elixir. They called it starfire. The Egyptians called it, what is it? It's pretty interesting. If you think about it, we have trace minerals in our blood. And if we had gold, that is the one mineral that never deteriorates. So it would make sense if it had something to do with longevity. Thank you, brother, so much for all your work. Thank you, Dakin. And Emilius Jones. So glad I found this channel. Well, thank you. Guy has the perfect narrating voice. That's Greg J. Symbols and system again. Ley lines, emerald tablets, and faces on the surface of Mars, the size of mountains. I don't believe any of this. It's pretty hard sometimes, isn't it? And yet, it's there. And according to the astronomer Tom Van Flandern, the odds are something like 1,000 billion to 1